Good day to you from Galactic on the 4th day of August 2026. We're taking an interruption from my video series that is covering the production of a scientific paper announcing one of the most important discoveries of modern times. Over here, though, you'll see a list of words that doesn't have too much to do with geometry, and indeed does not seem to have much to do with science at all, since it begins with the word Islam. Now, you may have heard of some of these words, or you may be familiar with many of them, or they may be brand new to you. Islam is the major religion of the earth and has been for a millennium. The earth is divided into regions of humans that largely have nothing to do with each other. The best example of that, just to begin with a global scale, is the Chinese culture, the Chinese nation. They have no idea of their origins. They don't know where they came from. On the opposite side of the Himalaya mountains and a desert, a desert and a tundra region that completely separates China from the rest of the world. And when you're talking about the globe, you always have to make an exception for North and South America, which did not figure into history at all. They have no history there. It's not quite true. There were the Aztecs, there were the Incas, there were the Hopi Indians, there were about 150 nations of Plains Indians, and Indians lived everywhere. And they were called Indians because, as you may have heard, the continent that Columbus accidentally ran into had never been heard of by the Europeans, and so he thought that it was India. A huge miscalculation showing how primitive and stupid were the Europeans in 1492. So when you're talking about the globe, you're really not being very accurate if you're talking about a typical portion of humanity. And then there's the strange case of Antarctica. There's a spine of mountains that sticks up through that ice, quite tall, I believe over 12,000 feet high at the highest point. It used to be part of the Andean chain. And the Andean chain is part of a cordillera that runs all the way from Canada to Tierra del Fuego, a distance of something like 10,000 miles. One single mountain chain. But it used to run through Antarctica. And you can see where it snapped. And it's just the strangest thing to look at a globe and look at Tierra del Fuego and the Antarctican Peninsula, which sticks up, so it's obvious they used to be connected. But if you look at Drake's Passage, the tip of South America, Cape Horn, and the northern tip of the Antarctican Peninsula, that prominent peninsula sticking up, it's obvious that it used to be connected with the Andean Mountains. Some cataclysm in the past ripped it apart, ripped it, and it's obvious that it was a surge of water. It wasn't just oceanic water like the Pacific rose up in a gigantic tsunami and bashed its way through. Oh, really? That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened, except words can't describe what actually happened. The Earth was struck by a comet about 8,000 years ago, and that's been proved. I also was not allowed to know about scientific discoveries of any importance. That subject is absolutely taboo. That's what I deal with. That's all I have ever dealt with in my whole life. The subjects that other people are in, one person out of 1,000 that would be willing or able to talk about the most important religion that's ever existed on the face of the earth. How can that possibly be? You know, I see these people who are politically minded. Your government is hateful, it's destructive, it's satanic. I have dealt with taboo issues all my life. That's all I deal with are taboo issues. And I'm the only man that can touch those issues. There are a couple of men that I do admire, but they're dead. There's no living man that I admire. They're absolutely reprehensible. They're beneath my dignity to even consider them. So to whom am I speaking? Why am I talking at all? Well, there are several reasons that have accrued. And how long have I been doing this? How long have I been stark raving mad? How long have I been completely off my rocker? That's a reasonable question. Since the age of 17. Before the age of 17, if you had had a list here that said God, Jesus, and Bible, I would look at that and say, duh, duh, duh. Zero knowledge of God. That's the truth. At the age of 17, I knew nothing about God. It never came up in class or in my home. It was taboo. As for Jesus, he was some ancient person whom we worship one day a year as a baby in a manger in either Bethlehem or some godforsaken place way in the Middle East. That was Jesus. I knew about as much about Jesus as I knew about the Buddha or Shiva. Never read more than one paragraph of that stupid, smelly book, to which I was strangely attracted because of circumstances that have nothing to do with its contents. As for what it said in the Bible, zippity-doo-dah, nothing. This was at the age of 17, in an enlightened nation. My parents were perfectly normal and natural. There was nothing unusual about my parents at all. I still to this day claim that both of those human beings are the most perfect human beings I've ever met in my life, and nobody can compare, certainly not with my father. But my mother was a saint, and she was a Christian, a real Christian. And she never taught me or my sisters word one about what was in the Bible, what God says, any kind of a tradition, except Christmas. At Christmas, she would bring out a manger scene and set it up. Oh, it was very, very well done. Manger scene, quite nicely done. With a little baby Jesus, with a little pink pecker, with a little red dot at the tip, probably showing that he was circumcised. And I had no idea what that meant. But I do remember the three magi. And this is actually true. It's in the Bible. If you're unacquainted with the story of the magi, I don't see how you could be unacquainted with it, since it's literally part of American mythology now. And it's treated as if it were a myth. It shows their camels. The Magi were a real people. They lived in Iran. So 3 Iranians, loosely speaking, 3 Semitic people who were not Jews at all. They came from 1,000 fucking miles away to see the baby Jesus. The baby Jesus? What is this, infant worship? Yeah. That's exactly what it was. Infant worship. Well, that doesn't sound like it's religious. It sounds superstitious. I should have to say the way it was presented to me, it was superstitious. But at the age of 17, the same year that I took LSD, I did an experimental drug called delta lysergic acid diethylamide tartrate. And I took a tab, as they were called, a tab. It wasn't a sugar cube, it was a tab. And I got it from a friend, and 8 of us decided to take Orange Sunshine LSD, which was simply called acid. And this was long after the acid movement, the hippies. The hippies had come and gone. About the same time as the Beatles and the war in Vietnam, and the maximum racial oppression against the black citizens of this country, everything, and the space race, and the near destruction of the Earth by thermonuclear holocaust all occurred at the same time. From 1962 to 1965, 6, and then it was over. No more love generation, no more hippies, no more cultural movement. It was all over. But there was still enough momentum left that in high school I was exposed to acid, and by then it was routine. By then the scare was over because, of course, the government reacted to this maniacal movement of naked, free sex-loving renegade rebels. That was all over with, and LSD was perfectly acceptable. So since my high school teacher in English recommended a book to us, which I tended to read the books that he recommended because he was always right, he showed us this book called The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test, which was about how to destroy your life with LSD. And it made it sound fun. It was irresistible. Take this tab of acid and blow your fucking mind. And it was written by one of the greatest American writers of all time, Tom Wolfe, one of my heroes. An amazing writer who dressed like a dandy. He dressed in all white, absolutely impeccable. A fairy, from the point of view of someone from Oregon, like Ken Kesey the Acid Head. Maybe you've heard of Ken Kesey the Acid Head. More famous than Timothy Leary, who basically was just, well, he didn't amount to much, but Ken Kesey was a real force. And Ken Kesey could not stand Tom Wolfe. He couldn't stand him. He hated him. And he hated him to his dying day. Just hated Tom Wolfe. Hated his guts. Instinctively hated Tom Wolfe. Well, fuck you, Ken Kesey. May you not rest in peace, you fucking acid freak. What an idiot. There is no way on God's green earth that you could not like Tom Wolfe. And another asshole that hated Tom Wolfe was that idiot who blew his brains out with his own gun. Hunter S. Thompson. Out of his fucking mind, and probably should have been shot when he was in his 20s to rid the earth of a pollutant. But he did end up writing Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which is an unbelievable book. It was a once-off, it was a one-shot thing. The man was a genius and an excellent political commentator. But kind of like, who's that guy who isn't quite dead yet and he's never going to die? He's just going to be in a state of suspended animation. What? Noam Chomsky, whose name is always mispronounced because Americans can't pronounce names right. And to be perfectly fair, neither did Noam. He didn't pronounce his own name right. Just same as Norman Finkelstein mispronounces his name because he respects his parents who changed their name because nobody wants to be thought of as a fucking Jew in America. So Noam Chomsky was one of those guys, well respected, spoke out against the Vietnam War when it was unpopular to do so. But he's just a stupid-ass atheist, has no conception of reality whatsoever, just another voice in the dark, just screeching to the stupid Americans who don't have a great palate to work with, not allowed to know about any wisdom from around the world, so you're stuck with Noam fucking Chomsky for your hero. What a pathetic nation I was raised in. I loved it. I was an American patriot. As soon as I turned 18, I joined the Navy. I saw nothing wrong with doing that. And my father was quite proud of me, as I would say is a perfectly normal reaction. My son, at the age of 18, 1 week after my birthday, I was in the Navy. And I wanted to. I look back on that. Obviously, I was out of my mind. Nobody warned me. My father didn't warn me. That's not what you want to do, son. You do not want to join the United States military. No. He didn't say that. I don't believe I asked him. I do remember when I told him, I've decided, Father, that when I turn 18, I'm going to join the Navy. I have never seen my father look more proud. And yet looking back, what a debacle, what a farce, what a mistake, what a huge trap. But my father was complicit in it. What does this have to do with Islam? I think you understand. To complete my story of the Magi, that's in the Bible. That 3 wise men, but actually these are Magi, and that word is used. What does that mean? It's the same root word as for magician, which has to do with Satan worship. So these are Magi who were associated with the devil, who came riding out of Iran on camels. That's what they ride to this day, baby. And they rode 1,000 miles to see the baby Jesus, who was a fucking Jew. What do you make of that story? Well, I know what you make of it if you're statistically a typical American. You think it's absolute horseshit. You take exactly the same stance as any atheist. You probably are atheist, and you probably feel very safe being an atheist. But as for any stories of Jesus, or the Magi, or the Bible, or God, no way does that come up in polite. No way does that come up in retarded American culture. There is no American culture. We've been around for about 200 years as a nation. Have you ever thought what it even means? Aren't you a human? You're a human. I'm not an American. I fucking hate America. America represents Satan to me. Well, it turns out that I'm not alone. An entire sect of Christianity called the Seventh-day Adventists believe that the United States is Satan. And you might say, well, in a well-run country, shouldn't those assholes be rounded up and shot? Just dig a mass grave, just gun them down and let their bodies fall into the pit and cover it up. Because you're born in America, but you hate America. Kill them, right? No, this nation is at least that free. But freedom is relative. Freedom basically refers to the number of choices you have. And the fewer choices you have, the less free you are. If you're free to become a Baptist, but that's all you're free to become, then you're not free. You're raised by your goddamn society and forced to adopt their culture. And that's how most LDS people are, the Mormons, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You can go to any city in this motherfucking nation and find this very beautiful church. Where do they get their money? They don't have to pay taxes. And so the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints, all of whom are out of their fucking minds. They're stark staring mad. They're out of their fucking minds. They believe in a prophet named Joseph Smith, who was an absolute snake oil salesman. And these people, I don't know if it's over 1 million. I'm pretty sure. You could look it up. The Mormons. I've been neighbors with Mormons. I've been visited by Mormons. I dated a Mormon. I went to the Mormon temple because she took me there. I read their book. I read a couple of their books, something from the Pearl of Great Price, something from the Book of Mormon, and there's one other one, all of which was supposed to have been written on gold plates, which were just conveniently lost. And now an entire religion believes this horseshit. And these are the same people that talk about Jesus, the Bible, and the Magi. Now, at the age of 17, I was converted to Christianity by an act of heaven. It had nothing to do with any human. I was literally looking up into heaven at night, just as Abraham was when he was visited by God, and God ended up calling Abraham God's friend. And he's the only man who's ever been called God's friend. Unless you include Muhammad, who's been called everything good in relation to God, God's messenger, God's testimony, God's friend, certainly. But other than Muhammad, only Abraham has that. Well, I was doing the same thing as Abraham. I had exactly the same experience as Abraham. And I ended up being just like Abraham. And as time has gone on, I've ended up being just like Muhammad. An absolute devotee of heaven. Absolutely devoted to God all my life for 55 years. Absolutely devoted to the way of heaven with no deviation at all. And that conversion was miraculous. It was on the order of Paul's conversion. Paul was basically a shithead, just a lowlife, just a motherfucker. Very much like someone like Brian Greene, except Brian Greene with a gun. And he was a murderer. Saul of Tarsus was a full-scale murderer. He was a Sanhedrin thug. He was a Mossad agent. And he went in search of Christians to kill them in cold blood. And he was on his way to murder another Christian when Jesus Christ visited him, knocked him off of his fucking horse, and told him the way it was going to be from then on. That's what happened to me. The same thing that happened to Abraham, the same thing that happened to Paul, and the same thing that happened to Muhammad, happened to me before I knew what it was that happened to me. And it's been decades. I'm over 70 years old now. So we're talking about an event that took place 55 years ago. It's unbelievable that I was just literally converted to Christianity by force. I was looking up through sugar pines at an altitude of 5,000 feet in the Calaveras Stanislaus National Forest area. I was in search of pussy. I was 17 years old, and I was trying to get into the pants of a certain girl who was also 17, and she was the school whore. And I didn't know she was the school whore. She was quite intelligent and quite alluring, not very pretty, with a body that nobody would look at twice. But I thought that she was the cat's pajamas, and her family grew to like me. And they invited me over to dinner because I was just trying to get into her pants. That's all I could think of. I had just reached puberty. You know, when you're 17, you've been through puberty. It lasts a few years where you lose your mind. You just go stark staring mad. It's like called an elephant in must. You have to fuck. You have no choice. You're going to fucking fuck. And you're going to find someone to fuck. Just like it said in the Jefferson Airplane song. Don't you want somebody to screw? Don't you need somebody to screw? You'd better find somebody to screw. Right? That's what I was raised with. All the Beatles songs are about getting tail. Getting into her pants. Getting her alone and just stripping her naked and just going to town on her fucking body down there near her loins. And there's something to do with the tits. We all know it begins with a kiss. Then you get a boner. Then you try to make her wet. And then you're done. And then the shit hits the fan. Your life is fucked forever. Right? Everybody knows this. I don't make this stuff up. So I was like Paul, except I wasn't out to murder, I was out to fornicate. And heaven had other plans, interrupted everything I was going to do, and told me my marching orders. From now on, this is who God is, this is who Jesus is, and this is what the Bible is. Now start reading it and get with the program. Just like Abraham, just like Paul, and just like Muhammad. No difference. Direct contact with heaven. No way back, no way out. Your life is changed. Well, Richard Dawkins says that I'm retarded and out of my mind. Well, if he says it to my face, I'll end his life sooner than he thought that he was going to disappear on his own accord. Motherfucking atheist. But then you have the Mormons. Oh, aren't they just a delightful tribute to the name of Christ and God? Isn't that just a wonderful testimony to the beauty of United States culture? The goddamn Mormons. I didn't know. I had no idea. That's the truth. When I was converted to the way of heaven, there was no taint. There was no admixture. I was not fooled by anybody or anything. I have never made a mistake in Christianity. I have never been taken in by the Mormons or anybody else. Nobody has ever gotten into my pants. Okay? And that's exactly what they want. They're rapists. And all they want is ass. Really, they want your money. And the Mormon church is absolutely satanic. There is nothing good about the Mormon church, or, to be absolutely fair, any of the other 1,000 sects, that's S-E-C-T-S, the 1,000 sects of white Christianity in America. Not one of them is good. Not one. The Baptists, the Methodists, the Lutherans, the Catholics are pure satanic. They're run by Satan. The guy with the white robe? Who the fuck do you think that is? The Vicar of Christ? Shove it up your ass! So what the hell is going on this goddamn planet? Well, it's a game. It's a game that has a fatal outcome. And you can thumb your nose at it. You can be like Richard Dawkins. I am just going to fleece the public any way I can to make money, because that's the name of the game. Fuck God. Up with the devil. Get all the money you can. Lie, 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 and dodge the truth and never grow up. And pretend that you're a full-grown adult and you're normal. Not a functional psychopath, which is what you actually are. A functional, barely functional psychopath. And I'm supposed to guide you. I'm supposed to guide this nation. I'm the savior of the United States. I'm going to lead the youth into the light. I tried. I tried. And there is only one fate in this country for a man who is truthful, is honest, is dedicated, actually has courage. He is wise. He struggles hard. He's humble. He knows more than everybody else combined. And all he wants is for people to be happy. So he teaches the truth out loud as much as he can in happiness and a positive aspect to make you a better person. That man will be killed. That is exactly what Americans hate. They hate wisdom. And now, the beloved country in which I was born and raised by my two ideal parents, my nation, Really? Let's slow down here. Not my nation. Even though I enlisted at the age of 18 and did my best to serve my nation, I thought that I was an American. I swear to God that I thought that I was an American doing the right thing. Jesus Christ! Jesus H. Christ! What the fuck did this country do to me? Well, it fed me, gave me a place to live, several cars, 2 wives, better off than most people have ever been. I'm in the top 1% of the top 1% of the wealthiest, most blessed people who's ever lived. Is it because of the United States of America? Shove it up your ass! Shove it up your ass! Fuck America! You're a patriot? You're retarded! You're a patriot, you're a Marine. You know what you are? You're a fairy. He who lives by the sword shall die by the sword. No exceptions. You pick up that machine gun? Well, I enlisted. I even fired a weapon. The only time in my life I've ever fired a weapon was in boot camp. I certainly did not like it. That was not my idea of serving my country. And it rather slowly became apparent as I got aboard ship and began my duties that perhaps a slight misunderstanding had occurred. That I thought that I was destined to serve my country in honor and dignity. What, are you kidding, you fucking nigger? You goddamn nigger! That's what my country really thinks of me. I'm a nigger! And yet I served as American diplomat to Ukraine for 8 years. I was the American ambassador in Kiev teaching the gospel in the name of the United States of America at the age of 40. How do you explain that? You don't have to, I do. How do I explain that? Youth. I was young. I didn't know everything when I was 40. I'm 70 now. You know what that means? It means I'm at least twice as old and twice as wise as I was when I was 40. And I thought that I was serving America again in Kiev as an American diplomat. I found out what I actually did after the fact. My country raped me. Raped me. Fucked me in the ass. And I don't forgive entities that have no soul. There's nothing to forgive. All it is a situation. There's no such thing as America. There is such a thing as the American government, though. And that's a horse of a different color. That's where the problem lies. And then when you check history, you find out every single country, every single nation, for the thousands of years of human history, it's the same thing everywhere. America, America, oh, rah, 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 until they murder you. Sorry, we had to put that on a nanosecond pause. Really, a half a minute just went by while the motherfucking train went through. It's the hottest day of the year. It's just beginning now, and I can't close the doors, so you're going to hear every noise that's outside. And since the train went by, just as there was a car crash on the highway, I thought that I would spare you that distraction. So what are these words I have on the screen? I think maybe they may take more context for you, that these are the words that I've lived by. Islam. I was born Islam. What is my nation? Islam. What is my religion? Islam. What is my culture? Islam. What is my identity? Islam. That's who I am. That's the son that my mother produced from between her legs so that the umbilical cord could be cut, and I took my first breath, and it was Allah be praised. That's me. You don't know me, and I don't want to know you. You're sick, but I'm well. You may and I'd better have a good sense of humor, oh yeah. So what's that next word down? That's a word that you don't know. Sunnah. And so we're going to look that up right now. Alright, I think you can see we have a Google search engine screen with an AI overview. That's a chatbot, artificial intelligence, on which I just gave a very good video lecture. The Sunnah is the way, traditions, and practices of the Islamic prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It includes his specific sayings, called the hadith, his actions, and his silent approvals. Okay, this is a holy man, and the Sunnah refers to Muhammad. It refers to Muhammad according to this chatbot. Alongside the Holy Quran, which is the holiest book ever written according to the Islam people. That is the Holy Bible. That is the gift of heaven to earth. That book, not the Holy Scriptures of the Jews. That's out. But the Holy Quran, which was given to Muhammad, that is a good book. That is inviolable. That's the source of wisdom. Not the Jewish anything. Nothing to do with the Jews. Except they make a tremendous exception for Yeshua. They don't like the Jews. Not that they don't like the Jews as humans. The Jews have always had a good time in Iran, any Islam nation, for the past 1,000 years. You're safe if you're a Jew. It's about the only place in the universe that the Jews, after the time of Christ, were safe at all. They were not safe in Europe. They certainly weren't safe in Ukraine, Russia, Germany, Poland, Italy, Portugal, Spain, France, or England. The Jews are hated. But the Islam people do not hate the Jews. They call them the people of the book, and the only thing they require of Jews, religiously, is follow Moses. You say that you follow Moses and live at peace. The Islam people do not hate other religions. You were brainwashed into thinking that, but it's not true. In fact, what is being described, the only religion that hates other religions is Christianity, because it's based in the Jewish scriptures, which is pure hatred. It's nothing but hate. There's no love in there at all. Now, I was a Bible scholar for 50 years, and I technically still am. I love the Bible. I know it's a holy book, but not on the same order as the Quran. The Quran is much, much different. It's not really a book. It's meant to be recited. It's music. It's heavenly music. And that's very rarely expressed in the Western world, even among scholars. They're vaguely aware that the way the Islam people treat the Quran is it must be heard. It must be spoken. It must be sung. It has to be intoned. It has to be recited. You have to hear it. It's oral. That is A-U-R-A-L. It goes into your ears, not your eyes. Not through your eyes. It's through your ears that the Quran is transmitted. So I'm just telling you the way it is from the point of view of those who actually practice it. So that's the Sunnah. Now you may have heard of the Sunni, which is I guess you'd say a sect, although it's not a sect really. Islam is well known to divide into two types, and they get along mostly. It's not like the Catholics and Protestants who hate each other's guts. That's not how it is in Islam. But 90% of them all claim to be Sunni. Sunni, that's 90% of all Islam people, really since the beginning, are Sunni. And what does that mean? That word Sunni is derived from Sunnah. So those are the Mohammedans, or Muslims is the proper term for an Islam person, and they approve of this word. Muslim is okay. Mohammedan is a little outdated, but technically it's correct. And the way I always refer to a Muslim is as an Islam person. I say both words, Islam person. I don't really have anything against the word Muslim, but I rarely use it. But it is acceptable to use that word. It's not pejorative in any way. And when you're dealing with people's culture, you should be sensitive. You don't call a Jew a Yid. You don't call him a Benji, although I've been heard to use those terms, because they're the laughing stock of all creation, according to the Mosaic curse. But the Jews basically got along well under Islam, except at first, because of course the Jews were against Islam because it's not Jewish. And so there were some skirmishes, but quite frankly, the real enemies of Muhammad were his own people. The Jews simply took part, because they're mercenary. What can they do? They don't even have their own homeland. What are they supposed to do? So they made a mistake and they tried to fight against Muhammad. Well, they were punished for that, and that's too bad that you fought against Islam, you stupid Jews. So what are the Sunni? Why do they say that they're Sunni? Do you know the name of the other one? The 10%. Yeah, 90% and 10% add up to 100%. So 9 out of 10 Islam people are Sunni. Well, what the hell does that mean? You just heard it. It's someone who believes in the way, traditions, and practices of the Islamic prophet Muhammad. Okay, well, what about the Shiites? They practice Shia. How does that differ? Well, so far it doesn't differ at all. So what makes Shia and Sunnah different? Shia is the second largest branch of the Islamic faith, making up about 10 to 20%. Okay, that's the first time I thought it was 10%. I stand corrected. I told you I'm not too good with numbers and figures. I constantly get dates wrong and amounts wrong, and I'm unreliable in that sense. If you're looking for mathematic precision, forget it with me. So 10 to 20% of all Muslims, you see that word is used, worldwide. Its followers are defined by their belief that the leadership, here we go, the leadership after the Prophet Muhammad belonged exclusively to his cousin and son-in-law, Ali, and his direct descendants. Now, just to make this clear, so you're in no doubt about the meaning of Sunni and Shia. You should know, as an educated American, I know that you don't know any of this, but you should. And so I'm telling you, I'm informing you, I'm a scientist, I'm a teacher, I'm a guide. So Sunni means that they believe in the leadership after the Prophet Muhammad belongs to somebody other than his cousin and son-in-law Ali. So who's Ali and why would this matter? Let's find out a little more here. What you would have to study in order to know the technical difference, and it's a technical, very technical difference, almost ridiculous from a Western point of view. It's not ridiculous to them, okay? And remember what I said about honoring someone else's culture. Just because you don't understand it does not entitle you to make any comments against it. And if you abide by what I just said, you'll be safe and you'll be on the right path. But if you start making fun of someone else's religion, I swear to God, you're going to pay for that one way or another. Don't let me catch you doing it, or you'll pay on earth. So what is Sunni? Sunni means that they believe that the successorship after Muhammad died belonged to a certain man, but not Ali. The Shiites believe that the leadership of Islam belonged to Ali after Muhammad died. This has to do with after Muhammad was dead. So it doesn't have anything to do with the core religion. It only has to do with leadership. So it's political. It's a political difference. And that comes up in religion, especially if it's your entire culture, which it is with them. So all of this makes sense. But it takes some training for a Westerner to get used to the way they think. Because we don't think that way. We don't believe. Who was the successor after Jesus died? Well, the Catholics say it was Peter. But the Protestants say no way. But does that define Christianity in any way? Not in any way. It's political. Has nothing to do with what Jesus said, did, or was. And the same thing is true of Sunni and Shia. It has nothing to do with the Quran. It has nothing to do with Islam. It has to do with leadership. Who's the rock of their church? Who's their Peter? I mean, that would be Catholicism, which is satanic, as I warned you. But you shouldn't hate them. Don't hate the Catholics. What you're hating is Catholicism, not the Catholics. It's the same thing with Judaism. No rational man hates the Jews. That's ridiculous, unless you're Hitler, which is ridiculous. Yes, exactly. But you hate the religion. That's where you have to do that. You have to do that. But not, you try not to offend people. Because a person who believes in their religion are entitled to their belief. That's just common sense. You don't make fun of them. I don't make fun of Hindus. I don't make fun of Buddhists. I don't make fun of Jews. I don't make fun of anybody. But what you say and do, you had better be right or I will get you. I will correct you. I don't care if you're a prophet. I will correct you if you're wrong. You say you're from heaven? You had better fucking not get anything wrong then when I'm around. I'm not in their class. I am just a common grub. I'm a common worm. There is nothing special about me. As the good old American expression goes, my shit stinks too. That means I'm human just like you. I don't get to judge Jesus or Muhammad or anybody else. I just am not entitled to do that. So why am I up on my high horse making pronunciamentos against holy men? Because it's not against the holy man, it's against their goddamn followers. So what do I have against Islam? Nothing. But I do have something to say to my Islam brothers and sisters that they're not gonna like for the same reason you, my fellow Americans, hate my fucking guts. That's my job, is to make you hate my guts. But that's not the purpose of what I do. It's just that is the natural result of what I do. And that's what's done to every prophet. And Jesus said that. Yeshua HaMashiach, blessed be his name forever. In the name of his Father, the Most High. I can't judge my master. That's ridiculous. That's insubordination. So why do I come across so strongly as if to offend you? As if to make you hate me? It's because you're so far gone that nothing is going to wake you up. And I can see that and you can't. It's that simple. I'm trying to save your life. Well, the reward you get for trying to save someone's life who doesn't think it needs to be saved, they'll kill you for that. They'll kill you for that. Do not try to help me or I'll kill you. Well, that's the sign of a decadent society. A society that's gone off its fucking rocker. Because you can't get through this life without a guide. And your life proves it. I'm talking to you, my listener, my devoted followers, of whom I think there are about 3 or 4 after 4 years. So I'm hated. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed since the day of my conversion. I do nothing but speak the truth, but I don't hold back. Time is running out for me, and I'm sorry, but I am a human too, and I have to take account of the clock, honey. The clock is running out on my time. And before I depart this planet, I will vent my spleen if I feel like it. And if I say that you're sick and sorry and hopeless and nothing can help you, that's the way it's gonna stand. So why am I telling you about Islam? Because you need to know. So what's the difference between Shia Islam 10% and Sunni Islam 90%? What's the difference? Nothing. There's no difference. Let me give you an analogy in case that just hurts your mind. It's just, oh my God, he talks over my head. I can't understand a single word he says. He's too smart for me.
I hate him.
Is that you? Does that sound like you? It's everybody I've ever met. Very few exceptions to the rule of retardedness among humans. I don't treat that person as a retard. As far as my line of duty, the reason I'm alive, the reason I have a pair, I'm a man with a voice, I have a mind, what am I doing with it? I am spreading the gospel. I'm telling people the good news, undiluted. Nobody has ever listened to me in this country with the exception of about a half a dozen people. In Ukraine, they flocked to hear me. They packed the house to hear me in Kiev and Yalta. You think I want to go back there? Well, I can't now, but I've been to Ukraine 5 times. As a missionary for the gospel of God. In the days, may God forgive me, and I know that he does, because, I mean, come on. I thought that I was an American. I thought that I represented America. Boy, oh boy, was I wrong. Boy, oh boy, how stupid can a man be? So, you know, when I make all of these far-reaching statements of just skepticism and cynicism and just cutting everything down around me, I think you know whom I'm after. I'm after myself. I'm coming down on me because I'm the stupidest, most brutish man who's ever lived. Which brings up one of my favorite verses, which we're going to look up now. And here is your first Bible passage, maybe that you've heard in years or decades. It's from Proverbs, one of the wisdom books, one of the 5 wisdom books of the Israeli scriptures. The book of Proverbs is not just Proverbs of Solomon. You find some other Proverbs in there. This one, in Proverbs chapter 30, in the 2nd verse, was spoken by Agur, A-G-U-R, a rather unidentifiable man, just a name from the past, who had something to say that ended up in the book of Proverbs of all places, but it turns out it's a prophecy. I am a man of the book, as the Islam people say. I believe the Bible, as far as that's possible. This is translated from Hebrew. Surely I am only a brute, not a man. I do not have human understanding. The New Living Translation, I am too stupid to be human, and I lack common sense. Sorry, but I really love this verse because it's talking about me. The English Standard Version, surely I am too stupid to be a man. I have not the understanding of a man. And then there's more, but the King James is my favorite version. Surely I am more brutish than any man, and have not the understanding of a man.
What else does this stupid man say?
I am weary, O God, and worn out. Remember, I believe that this applies to me. This is a prophet, and I identify with prophets. So whatever he says, think of me as being the one saying it. I am weary, O God, and worn out. I think you can tell that that's true. Surely I am the most ignorant of men, and I lack the understanding of a man. This is from the New King James Version, which avoids all the these and thous and a few other pitfalls of older English. I have not learned wisdom, and I have no knowledge of the Holy One. This is a prophet talking. Obviously, he doesn't have a very good self-image. He's basically cutting himself down as low as a man can be cut down. Yeah, I identify with this too, despite how I may sound. It's defensive. My overbearing attitude is defensive. Please understand, I am not a mean man. Not at heart. I'm trained in the gospel, the good news that sets a man free. So how come I sound so angry? Well, let's hear what the prophet says on my behalf, shall we? Give me this small honor before I depart this earth, having failed, absolutely failed. There are a couple of exceptions that made the whole ride worthwhile. I'm actually the happiest man in the world. So to continue from verse 3, just one more verse to go. So let me pick up where I left off, and then we'll read the last verse, and then you'll know what it is I'm trying to say. I have not learned wisdom, and I have no knowledge of the Holy One. Who has ascended to heaven and come down? Who has gathered the wind in his hands? Who has bound up the waters in his cloak? Who has established all the ends of the earth? What is his name? And what is the name of his Son? Surely you know. Every word of God is flawless. He is a shield to those who take refuge in him. Do not add to his words, lest he rebuke you and prove you to be a liar. And that is the end of the words of Agur, who is obviously a prophet with a very low self-image. Do you know why? For the same reason that Muhammad was among the most humble, devoted servants of true humility that's ever lived. He gave practically all of his money to the poor. He was continually filled with good, helpful, cheery information for his fellows, his family, his tribe, and finally anybody who would listen. He has excellent, wonderful news for you about how heaven regards you. And that was his job. And he accepted it. Yeshua did the same thing. All the prophets did the same thing. Agur did the same thing. And I've done the same thing. I am in the line of the prophets. I'm right after Muhammad, Yeshua, Abraham, all the way back. I'm one of those men. Sometimes called a wise man, sometimes called a prophet. But you have to be careful when you give yourself titles. You may not want the title you've adopted, especially after you hear the words of Yeshua. If they persecuted me, just as they did all the prophets before me, they're going to persecute you too. In other words, you're going to be murdered for your faith. He said that. You are going to be murdered for the faith that I'm giving you, the gift that you're getting. will cause your fellow humans to fall on you and tear you limb from limb. And Muhammad accepted that. Yeshua accepted it. I accept it. That's a fair deal. Because any price is worth knowing the truth. But your fellow men will tear you to shreds. They will hate you. They will do anything in their power to destroy you in any way they can. If they find out, and to the degree that they find out that you're a believer in God, but you mean it, and you intend to express the good news as if it were true, you just signed your death warrant, and you have to know that going in. So you think I'm trying to convert you to that so you can die alongside me? I wouldn't put it that way. So what is he asking here? What is his name? Who's the one who established all the ends of the earth? What does that even mean? Physics. He's talking about physics. Who has gathered the wind in his hands? What does that mean? Let's start with this one. Who has ascended to heaven and come down? Do you know the answer to that? That's nobody. Nobody has ever done that. Nobody has ever done that. If you ascend to heaven, you're not coming back. There's one exception to that. The Messiah. The Messiah has ascended to heaven already. He's in heaven right now. This is true Christianity. I'm telling you what Christianity is. You could say it's about the resurrection because he couldn't ascend to heaven unless he rose from the dead. But raising that man from the dead was not the miracle compared with the miracle that followed. That man launched into outer space in his own body. And the New Testament goes to extraordinary pains to make sure that you know that. That was his body. It was his body. A trillion-celled organism of the planet Earth. A human ascended to heaven in his body. And that's where he is. That's Christianity. Christos anesti. Christ has risen, not just from the tomb. He rose from this planet into outer space. The world's first cosmonaut. He was taken up into heaven in the presence of, it's estimated, a couple of thousand witnesses on Pentecost Day, the second holiest day in the Jewish calendar. Yeshua was murdered on Passover Day. I don't know if you're aware of that. Well, he was definitely the promised one, but what is the promise? The promise is he's coming back. So the answer to this question, what is his name and what is the name of his son? I know his name, but you don't. Is his name Allah? Not in this case, it's not. Allah is a secondary name. That's not his primary name. No matter what the Shiites say, and no matter what the Sunni say, they do not know God's name in this context. And everything else they say about the name is a tradition, and it's subject to criticism. Subject to my review. Do you know the name of God? What is it? Allah? Okay, what do you mean by that? Creator? All right. Allah is a beautiful name. It's the same name as Eloah in Hebrew. Although that's not known, that's not accepted, you won't find that anywhere. I know it, because it's the truth, because I know the truth that you don't. That's my whole reason for existence. I'm a know-it-all, and you're a know-nothing. So the way I start out is by identifying myself with you. And the words of Agur are my words. I am weary, O God, and worn out. Surely I am the most ignorant of men, and I lack the understanding of a man. I have not learned wisdom, and I have no knowledge of the Holy One. Who has ascended to heaven and come down? Yeshua, only he hasn't come back yet. What is his name and what is the name of his son? His name, transliterated from the Hebrew, is the Lord God Almighty. Now that's just English. That does not give the meaning of his name. But I figured out the Tetragrammaton, and I'm the first man in 2,000 years to know the meaning of the holiest of all the names of God. And I wrote a book on it that was destroyed by an act of God so that you would not know it. And I tried to spread the name. I tried to tell people the meaning of God's name. It never got out, and it was blocked at every turn, with a few key exceptions that makes the whole story beautiful. There were some who listened to me in Kiev, and they were greatly enriched, and they thanked me for having shared my knowledge. That never happened in the United States in any of the churches I served, mind, body, and soul. I was rejected at every turn. I was a teacher in the church. I was a missionary for the church in the larger sense. I have never been a sectarian. I was never a Seventh-day Adventist, even though they tricked me into being baptized in their goddamn tub. For which I'm sure that Allah will forgive me. And yes, you can call him Allah because that's a beautiful and polite name. It's a name of great respect. And all the names of God are the same. As long as you know whom you're referring to, you're respectful, and you're at least saying something true in his name. Well, Eloah means beloved. Is God beloved? To those who know him, yes. To those who don't know him, no. Not at all is he beloved. He's hated by everybody who is not converted. And that is the sin of man. And the Islam people know all about that. They are experts in that, and Muhammad was the man who just laid it out on the table. You are going to hell. Period. Unless you submit to God. And that's it. There's nothing else to say. That is Islam. You are going to hell unless you submit to God. And them's fighting words, baby. That's just the way it is in this world. Really? Well, come on out, and we are going to punch each other out until someone is left standing. Because you're not going to tell me to submit to anything that you say. And that divides humanity right down the middle. No, you won't submit to God because it's somebody else's God. And don't ever submit to somebody else's God.
And that's the sermon for the day.
No, you're not a Christian. No, you're not a Jew. I don't care what you practice or believe. You're none of the above. You have not yet achieved bottom. You have not hit bottom yet. You have not yet realized that you are the most ignorant of men, and you lack the understanding of a man. You have not learned wisdom. You have no knowledge of the Holy One. You cannot answer the following questions. You have no idea that there is a creator. You couldn't care less, and that's the way it's going to stay until you burn in hell. That's the law. And if an American hears that and you try to make that stick, that American will get a weapon and will slay you. No, you're not telling me that I'm ignorant. Well, Yeshua says, get ready for that, because that's your fate. To the degree that you promulgate the truth, the gospel, the good news that sets men free, you are on your way to being destroyed. That's why nobody likes religion. It's a death sentence. Is it worth it? Yes. Yes, it is. And my master proved that. Crucifixion. How would you like to line up to be the next one to be crucified? Have your arms spread out and nails driven into your wrists, because if it's into your palms, they'll actually tear out. So it goes into your wrists, so you're held up by your carpal bones while you suffocate. And let's not forget, you're naked. You're hanging there naked. The Romans hung you up naked. Do you know what happens to a man when he's crucified down there in his genital region? You can find out by frozen mammoths who had an erection, the most shameful, the most degrading, the most humiliating, and the most agonizing form of death. That man was tacked up on the holiest day of the year, on Passover Day in Jerusalem. He was crucified. Why? Because he's just like me. So what is Islam? Do you know? Can you say? Don't say if you don't know, but you're tuned in to me because I do know. So I will tell you, what is Islam? It's true Christianity. That's what Islam is. It's true Christianity. They're Christians. All the Shia are Christians. All of the Sunni are Christians. Well, let's see. That means they're spreading the gospel of good news, which is redundant. Do you know what the gospel is? Do you know what the good news is? No, you don't. Nobody ever told you. I will tell you, but nobody else will. What's the good news that sets you free? Well, I know you're going to reject it and you're going to want to kill me if I tell you. Should I still tell you, knowing you're going to want to kill me for telling you? I don't know. What do you think? What should I do? Yeshua did it, and he was crucified. Stephen did it, and he was stoned to death by the Sanhedrin. All the prophets were killed by their own people. All of them were. Muhammad, they never caught him, but there was a price on his head for a long time, and he could have easily been killed. But he was protected by heaven, and he wasn't killed. Some of us are not killed. Most of us are. Most of the wise men and the guides of the earth are murdered by their own people. And it's not just in Europe. It happens. It just happens. Jesus, well, Jesus, you know, you're not a good Jew. We're going to have to kill you. In the worst possible way. For doing what? For speaking the truth. You really shouldn't do that. Jesus, do not tell us the truth or we'll kill you. So what is Islam? Well, I guess I'd better be cautious. Well, what's the good news that the Islam people believe in? Well, I don't know if I should tell you, because I don't want to incite you to kill me. So really, I'm blocked. Well, so is Jesus. So is Muhammad. Nobody wanted to hear these men. Nobody wants to hear a prophet. You're telling us the truth that sets us free? Fuck you. Fuck you the worst way. Get off my case. Leave me alone. I'm fine. That's it. End of story. No, don't open your mouth again. No Jesus. No, no, no. No Bible, no. No Quran. No Islam. No. No. Yes. Yes. And if you don't listen, you're going to hell. That's why we say that. It's in self-defense. If you touch one of us, you're going to burn in hellfire forever. So don't touch us. They do anyway. They don't care about the warning. Well, then it's going to come true then. You didn't heed the warning? You killed us? You kill us. That's what you do. That's all you do is kill us. Well, you're going to burn in hell forever. Right alongside Hitler. That's where you're going. Because you won't listen. You won't listen to the truth that sets you free. Well, what's that? Well, I happen to have discovered what that is in physics. So that's why I'm writing a book. It's about the good news that is now proved by physics. Western science itself, although nobody will ever tell you this, has discovered that the Bible is true, the Quran is true, Muhammad was a prophet, the good news is true, Jesus was right, he's the Messiah, he's the Son of God, and God is the Creator. All of that has been proved in physics, and I'm the only man who can prove that. So that's why you're tuned into this station, because I know the truth that I can prove to you now. And if you kill me for this, there is no hell hot enough for you. I say that in self-defense because I don't want to be murdered for telling you the truth. It is not hateful. It's good news. Do you want to hear it or not? Keep looking up. This is Antarctica, bringing you the secrets of the universe, and now the ultimate secret, without which you're going to burn in hell forever, but with which you'll go free in this life, and you'll die in happiness. Those are your only two choices, hell or paradise. Which one are you going to choose on my authority? Because it's not mine. I'm going to prove to you that the gospel is true from physics. Stay tuned. I'll be back, unless I drop dead from a stroke or an aneurysm or just old fucking age, or, as my friend Auger would say,
Oh God, am I weary?
I am weary, O God, and worn out. I am weary and worn out, God. And then he gives you a prophecy that can set you free. That's what I'm going to do. We'll be right back. Thank you.